Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns. Welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Today I got Chad back on the podcast. And we're going to be talking about the things that we've noticed about B players moving to A players. What's the difference? How do you do it? What are the key things to focus on? And why is it so important? Now, for the last couple of years, I've been talking about the B player trap. And we see it all the time. You know, in school, you had the B student, the person who, did their homework, came to class, cooperated and everything. And this is where the bell-shaped curve of salespeople kind of survives. But the natural income of salespeople is very different. It's not a bell-shaped curve. It's a hockey stick, meaning that it is back-end loaded, like your comp plan. Now, if you look at your comp plan, most of them that I've seen, and I used to call myself a comp planologist because I would literally study these things and really understand them because that's how I got paid. And I was in sales to make money. So why is it so important to become a player? It's more important now than ever. Here's the reasons. There's a bunch of them. One, you always have a job and people want you. You don't have to justify yourself. Two, the math is working against us, meaning that if you look at the comp plans today, something strange has happened. And this started about 20 years ago, is that they started backloading the comp plan. It used to be a flat commission rate. And whether it was $1 or you were 300% of quota. But then they realized, well, why don't we back end it so that we can cover the expense of the person, their base salary, the health insurance, the benefits, the taxes, all of that. Why don't we back end it because there's more margin there? Now, I don't mean to overwhelm you with math, but this is what's happened, and it's kind of gone mad because all of a sudden they got the accounting people into it, and they're not exactly sales friendly until the sales goes away. So what ends up happening is only the top probably 20%, like the Pareto's law, but it's even worse in sales. Look up Price's law on the internet. Prices, like Price is Right. Price's law. What he talks about is the top, the square root of the number of people, and again, I'm getting into the math, but like in income, and this exists in all kinds of capitalism, communism, and socialism, the top 1% owns as much as the bottom 50%. Now, this is happening in sales today because the comp plans are so back end, meaning the people only who are well above quota are getting the most amount of the commission. So if you look at it, it's probably 10 to 20% of the reps are getting 50% of the commission. Now, all of a sudden, those people, they're the A players, or they're lucky, but luck doesn't persist. Luck comes and goes. But what does persist is capability. And that capability is what we have control over. So not only is it good to become an A player for your income, it's good for your job, and it's skewed in that direction. And I've seen this company after company. So what ends up happening is the B players are less motivated because the on-target income isn't attainable. They're not making quota. They say 53% of sales reps are making quota. It used to be 80. So you got to be careful of this. So that's the motivation to become an A player. You can't survive or really thrive as a B player anymore. And how do you do this? That's what we're going to get into today. Hey, Chad, welcome back to the show. The topic today is how to go from a B player to an A player. What do you see as some of the ways that people can do that?
The biggest one for me is always just the focus and the discipline to stay engaged in with the buyers, with the prospects, with the customers, and work your process. Right. A lot of times I see a lot of reps get happy ears, like, oh, this sounds like a deal that's going to close, and they get super excited, and then they're like, well, I don't, maybe I don't need to send that follow up, or maybe I don't need to do this step in the process or something something like that, and it really just turns around and bites them in the rear. And it's the speed, this belief that they have to move at a speed that is almost inhuman in sales, which gets them away from the discipline, or they just don't apply the discipline to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't talk before this, but that was my number one. And it's something that's come up consistently with the people I interview is focus. Because there's too many distractions today. We got this bell and whistle in our pocket all day long that interrupts us, 5 times a minute with alerts.
It vibrates, it makes funny noises, it flashes.
Has pretty pictures.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to not work or to be distracted today. I mean, certainly when I started, the only distraction was that your empty wallet and your manager looking over your shoulder, right?
Yeah. It was easy then, right? The motivation and distractions were, typical. It was just life. It was, family stuff and normal work stuff. And there wasn't, you turned on and off the TV and walked away from it. It wasn't in your pocket all the time. It wasn't something that was there, constantly feeding your head information and keeping you from being focused on, what you were hired to do, which is close business.
Yeah, because even when I talk to reps, they say, well, how should I look at my pipeline? And I'm like, okay, on chronological order of closure. And they go, well, why is that important? I go, because if it doesn't close, it doesn't matter. The commission on a no decision or someday deal is zero. There's no value to it. At the moment, at least. 6 months to a year from now, it might be valuable. But right now, if you do it in chronological order, it'll force you to focus on the tough things that you have to do and face to get that deal to move.
Right. And I think it's a nice lead into kind of my second one, which, if you focused and you're working your process and you're applying your discipline, that's all the kind of the first step. But then you have to be able to prioritize where you should be spending your time. And if you're chasing something that's 12, 14 months out and you're not spending the time on something that is, imminent, say, depending on your sales cycle, 45, 30, 90 days, whatever, then you're applying pressure and focus in the wrong places. So having the ability to focus and do the discipline combined with this ability to prioritize and understand that your time is valuable too, and your level of energy and investment in the sales process is key. So where do you put that to generate the largest return?
That's it. Because think back of all the, the King Kongs that were on the sales team, the people who always blew it out. They wouldn't they weren't mean by not giving you the time of day. They just walked around you with this laser Terminator type focus.
And they had things to do. They had deals to close and commission checks to cash.
Right. Because if you're not like that, you get stuck at the water cooler talking about what was on HBO last night or the game or what you're doing this weekend, which is so easy to do. But those, prime hours of when people are available to meet, to talk, if you're not utilizing them, is critical. My number 2 was getting deep into the accounts. Rarely do you see somebody really focus on an account, go deep and broad, and lose the deal. Nobody ever said, hey, I got too deep into this account.
Right. There's far too many that are happy, and you see it in all the stats, right? You see it in all of the stats. And when we work with clients, it's like, my people aren't getting to the buyer, or they're not getting access to power, or they're not talking to the decision maker. They're relegated to, some one individual contact. And a lot of reps they seem to be happy with that, which all you're doing is injecting risk into the deal. If you don't have several contacts inside of an organization, then if that one person goes dark on you, you're really kind of limited in what you can do.
Yeah.
So if you can go wide or deep, make sure that you understand the environment in which your buyers are working and understand the people that are making the decisions, what is motivating them to make those decisions, not just from what they tell you, but triangulate it so that you get other perspectives. You'll have a much better handle on how to maneuver the deal, how to work it so that it does get to close.
That's it. And that person wants you to stick with them because they want to have a sense of power and control over the deal. But they're not the person who's really going to get it done, nor do they have the acumen to understand how to get it done, nor the political strength probably to get it done. And right, I mean, because they have a personal win in it, which is a great signal of having a champion. But at the end of the day, it's not their job to get this done. It's our job to get it done. And,
right. They're invested in getting the information out of you. They're not invested in helping you close a deal.
Yeah. And people go, well, why did he go radio science? They lied to me. Oh, really? So they broke your heart and they lied to you. Yes, because I think that shift happened probably 10 or 15 years ago where clients felt very comfortable misrepresenting themselves or exaggerating their standing in the company and their purchasing power and their influence within the company to get the things that they want out of vendors. Free trials, free consulting, anything that they needed. They felt comfortable with that because they kind of looked down on salespeople. And I think that's why we need to have this peer-to-peer relationship.
Right. Well, and without a relationship built on trust and that one that is at parity, let's say, that you're going to end up just being another vendor. It's going to be more difficult to differentiate because I forget what the last stat I saw was, but something like if you're competing with another product or you want to unseat an incumbent and you're competing at the feature level, you have to show something like a 5x ROI for your solution over what may already be in place or what a competitor may be providing. And that can be extremely difficult to do, especially in some of these commoditized markets. So if you're not taking the time to really understand the account and realize that it's your job to get it closed, not theirs, and I love it when accounts, they'll send you somebody to collect information and maybe sit through the demos.
Yep.
And all that information is getting passed back, but really all they're doing is it's a negotiation tactic. They're setting it up so you can't ever really negotiate with the person who's going to make the decision, and they do that right out of the gate.
Yep. I remember The Godfather when the Godfather talks to his son and he goes, "I knew it was Bazzini all the time," right? Because they're smart. They give it to somebody who's in a kind of an administrative role to arrange the demos, to collect the information, to build the matrix. And what you have it, you nailed right there. Why they do that is that's the gatekeeper, not in the admin sense, but in the communication sense, to the people who really care about the decision. And too many sales reps misrepresent that as the decision maker and don't get around that person as fast as possible.
Agreed. Yeah, one of the other things that I've seen people that want to make that jump from B to A player, and I don't know if this is necessarily two things, but maybe it is. One of them is this constant curiosity. Yeah. Curiosity in terms of, continually feeding their head, making sure they're, staying up on top of trends in their industry or in the profession in which they're in, constantly learning and challenging their own assumptions. And I think that's critical. I don't think enough people do that. And then combine that with just a general sense of business acumen, right? Staying on top of how buyers think and how they view the world and how they talk, because they're not talking about file save as a feature set. They're talking about, the business outcomes from making that investment in your product or solution. And if you can't have a conversation, if you aren't well-rounded enough or informed enough or educated, and I don't mean like school educated, but self-educating yourself on how things get done in the world, just picking up the phone, calling and hoping somebody say, yeah, I'll buy your X, whatever that is the quickest way, maybe not even to be a B player.
Well, that's it. Most B players, certainly today, are either lucky or they've got inbound that's happening, existing accounts, and that they were born on third base and they thought they hit a triple. Right? It's just the cause and correlation is circumstantial, not causational. And too many people just look in the mirror and they like what they see, and it's like, I'm fine right here. And they go out and start a sales consulting company.
Right.
But you also have to understand that. And I think that curiosity also resonates with a lot of the people I talk to. It is that. And people look for that in the interview process, that digging of, why would this person, why are they looking? Why do they care? What's in it for them? How is their life better? And right. That, instead of blah, 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 about me, me, me. And that is kind of a maturity thing. It's kind of a emotional intelligence thing.
Yeah, well, and I think I think emotional intelligence can be developed over time, but I think it requires experience to do it. And honestly, the intellectual fortitude, let's say, to continually understand you're not ever going to have all the answers. Your job is to find the answers, but find the answers to the questions your buyer is going to ask, not the ones you think they should be asking.
Yeah, I mean, that's critical. And to understand how the companies actually make decisions. So many, I literally have talked to reps who have been in B2B sales for 20 years, and they think that anybody can just walk down to procurement with a quote and get an order through.
That would be great if it was that easy.
Right. And when I say, do you understand what a purchase request is? And they go, what's that? And I'm like, oh, no. Right. And you're literally, when you try and teach people this from an organizational standpoint, people kind of start to light up. And when I first started the podcast, I go, Brian, you're the first time anyone told me that I should deal with more than one person at the account. And it's not just because that person can't get it done. It's that it's going to touch and affect a bunch of people, and they're going to say and do things that you're not going to be there to hear and see. So you need to get your face, your voice, your product, their ideas and their feedback into the equation. And that's why
and that curiosity becomes key, right? It is absolutely key in that regard, because if you don't have it, then you're going to get bored real fast, number one. And you're never going to, I think this would probably be another one for me, is do everything in your power not to assume. Right? Because I see a lot of reps, and we kind of set them up for this. We train them on the products, on the solutions, on the services. We pound it into their heads. This is what makes us awesome. Check out what our product can do. Onboarding, you go through 2 or 3 weeks of this, drinking the Kool-Aid. The challenge is that then sets us up to go in and assume that we know the people we're talking to, what they're experiencing, what their problem may be. And so we have a tendency not to ask enough questions, to really express and explore that curiosity.
And that's it. And how many times have you gone into a deal and you ask, who else are you looking at? And out of left field, you hear some company you never heard of, from some country you never heard of, right? Who has like 3 people and 2 are outsourced. And you're like, never heard of it. You write it down, and then you get on the internet and they got a beautiful web page, but nobody's ever used the product. And you're kind of like, why did you look at them? Oh, that was what first thing that came up, or I saw a blog about it, heard about it on YouTube. And all of a sudden, that person, that tells you how deep they've gone into the investigative stage, that they may not even care.
Yeah, they really may not, which is, hey, you know what? That's just part of the drill, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier about prioritization and focus and understand. Are you talking to people where it makes sense, to even continue the conversation? Do you have a solution to a problem that they're focused on? And if you're not, just own it. Just accept it. Don't try and, depending on the deal, you can get creative and try and reorganize their priorities, but accept and be realistic with yourself about the people that you're talking to, the situations that they're in, problems that they're facing, and how realistic it is for what you have to solve those problems that they're focused on.
That's it. And too many times they find what I call false champions, people who appear like champions, but maybe new at the company, maybe busybodies, maybe drama queens. And they're trying to tell you, oh, you'll get an enterprise deal. I want to do something big. I remember one time my manager was managing one of these accounts, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to do $1.5 million this quarter with this company." And I went on the call with him because I was in town, and I came out of it. I go, "They're not going to buy anything. There's like 7 people in that building."
Yep.
And he was like, "He said he'd do it," and I'm like, "Oh God, he's the vice president. He's been there a month." It's like, he's playing you. You're not playing him. And he didn't have, he was a great manager. I liked him. He was very much that relationship, bring him to the ball game, take him out to dinner type guy. But he didn't understand, people getting things done in the real world. And I just had a sense for it because I hated wasting time.
Well, time's the one asset we don't get back.
Yeah, and especially when you travel. You're talking about almost 10x the time that you're in front of them with, the BS getting there and getting home stuff. So it's critical, but it's effective as far as that face-to-face time. And when you go to the place and you can kind of see how it's decked out, do they own the building? Do they have a lot of people? Are the people shuffling around? Do they look like they've been there since the 70s? Right? It's like... And you can see what else they bought, and you can kind of get a sense of them. Over the phone or even through a screen share, you don't get that sense.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And for me, A players had that, not only that focus, but that kind of sense. They smelled like the bloodhound, right? They knew where the money was.
And they were able to separate the wheat from the chaff, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's even in large organizations, we work with a lot of companies that are doing account-based selling, and they have target lists of say, hey, these 500 accounts or whatever, divvied up among these 5 people, so you have maybe 100 accounts that you've got to get into. Figure 10 to 15 contacts per. That may sound like a lot, but it really isn't.
It is.
So it's like you got to be really focused. Yeah, and all the things we just mentioned, you got to be focused and curious about what those people are going through. You've got to make sure that you are going as deep into the organization as you have to, to get the information that you need. But you also have to be realistic. There are some that are just not going to be in the buying window.
Right. For a while. Timing is critical. And knowing that timing, and I've seen too many chest pounders, say I don't do anything under 100K, and I'd be like, well, that's a big deal around here. So apparently you're not going to be doing a lot of deals. And they just get their ego in the way of the deals that they're going to do. And then you also get on that account-based thing, if you give it to somebody who doesn't understand the product and the market, they tend to pick these gigantic companies that you'd be lucky to get a deal out of in 3 years. Are they in market? Do they shown any interest? Do you have any relationships with them? Those type of things. A-level salesperson looks at it and goes, "That's a deal. This is not a deal. This is a lead. It's not on the fork. It's not even on the radar." Until I can build a relationship with somebody there who will communicate with me, it's just, it's part of my list of Bs. It doesn't make the cut.
Agreed, 100%. If you really want to go from B to A, and look, let's be honest, a lot of reps out there that are fine B and B players. But if you're really looking to differentiate yourself, I think these things are key. They're key to stay focused on. They're key to keep reminding yourself about. And I think the last big one for me that I would point out is if you have the opportunity to find and attach yourself to a mentor, somebody who's done the turns in the barrel, that is one of those high, ultra high performers, or was an ultra high performer that now got into management, is actually successful at it. Talk to them, right? Yeah. Spend time with them, learn from them. And I think that also will kind of wrap everything up in a nice bow. It'll build accountability for yourself and for the way that you're approaching your profession.
And I think you can't be comfortable being a B player anymore. And let me explain why. If you look at the comp plans now, they're skewed with the anticipation of probably around 60% making quota, which means that the quotas are not based off of reality. And I heard over someone else's podcast, it's like that people are not selling well. It's like,
right.
no, you got to understand they're cooking the comp plan to give the on-target income as a selling treat, because they don't want to raise the base, but they can raise the OTE on-target income because it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
Your on-target income is $1 million. Your commission rate is 0.1%. Right? That math has gone wild right now. And reps are not rebelling. The A players are rebelling. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Price's Law.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, Price's Law means that 1% gets 50% of the benefit. So, right. So, 1% of the singers make 50% of all the money spent on music. 1% of the directors make all the money spent on movies. 1% of the population has 50% of the income. So those top salespeople are getting 50% of the commission. So that B player, and I've heard people say, well, leave the B players alone. They're good. We need them. And you kind of do, but that's not good for them. Right? The company wins, but the B player loses because they're not walking away with their OTE anymore. They're walking away with like 80% of it. I hope you enjoyed that because I think it's important that every rep understand that it's not just one thing. If you listen to most people, they would tell you hard work. And that's not enough. I'm sorry. If hard work was all you needed, you could find everybody at Starbucks, working there, would be millionaires because they work harder than we do. I go at 5 a.m. and they're already there. Maybe they don't work as hard as I do, but they haven't made the coffee yet. They're groggy. They haven't put the milk out. Maybe that's a wrong example. How about McDonald's? Probably not good. How about Walmart? Maybe not. How about the people that you see out construction? Man, these people, they're getting to work at 7 o'clock. In my town, there's all kinds of construction. And they work outside in the heat and the cold and all times of year and the danger. And I never seen them open instructions. I never understood that. Like, how do they know how to build the building? I guess they'd done it before. But anyways, those people would be making more than us because they work harder. No, it's not just hard work. It's about being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing in the right way. Oh, no, that's too much. It is a lot. But that's why there's only a few great salespeople. And what I try and do on the podcast is give you different angles of it and quit telling you that there's this one thing that matters more than all others. They're all important. They're not all equally important, whether you think of it as mindset or skill set or strategy or, use of tools or luck. They all play into how we play the game, like any other game. What we have to do is first be honest with ourselves. Where are we today? Look around. See who's being successful in the industries that we want to be successful in. Too many of us just think the grass is greener, and sometimes it is. There are better industries. There's better locations. There's better territories. There's better companies, better managers. And we should always keep an eye out for them, but not distracted by them. So many elements of our career we have control over, and there's a few that we don't. We don't have control over the date we were born, which means in the location that we were born and where we happen to live right now. We might have control over where we live tomorrow or in a month or a year from now. So let's focus on those elements that we have control over and take a good look in the mirror, because probably the person who's most in your way is the person looking back at us. Isn't that philosophical? But it's true. Trust me, I know. If you can start to work on that person every day, just a little bit, quit thinking it as rehab and start thinking as a 30-day type of thing. Think of it as an everyday type of thing, a little thing. And I've been doing these little minute habits that I've been building into the Year of Excellence course and kind of building it up. And I keep looking for recursiveness, meaning that how do I build upon something that I already know to make it just a little bit better every day? Because all of these things are counterintuitive to being a human being, being a mammal. And this is why the mammal-to-mammal selling, idea is sticking with me because it cuts through all the BS. If you were to listen to, the internet, they would tell you, oh, challengers are the best salespeople. Well, it's a correlation and a causation problem there. Only the most senior salespeople would be able to debate an executive. A 25-year-old person who has no experience in that industry, how well are they going to debate somebody who's been doing it for 25 years? Maybe they'll know something more important than that person, or more relevant, or more insightful, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll get kicked out of that office. Maybe it's the person with the gray hair who's been selling in that industry for 25 years that looks at it very differently. That's the real causation. But we don't want to wait 25 years. I don't. I look at a 3-year plan because it's kind of the window of opportunity that I've seen. 5 is too long, 1 is too short. So I split the difference. No one likes the 2.5-year plan. Come on, Burns. What are you doing to me? Anyways, let's update you on the courses. Hey, I'm holding the prices. I'm going to maybe hold them till September, maybe not. So if you want to get into the course and talk about something that can make you from a B player to an A player, it's a year of focusing on the skills that you need to be an A player. What I basically did is outlined what A players do, the things that I sometimes do and I wish I did all the time, and how to understand how B2B sales really work. Because everyone tells me that their situation's unique until we start talking about it. Oh, you got these people. They think of it this way. You want to change it. Here's the time frame. These elements, once somebody else takes a look at it, you go like, yeah, oh yeah. You need someone else to help you with it. It's kind of like deal therapy. Not that you got issues. It's the deal has issues. You bring your deal to the therapist and we talk it over. And together we find what we think will work best. You get to hear other people talk about deals, real deals, not the company name or the product name. That doesn't matter. Where it is and where you want to take it and what you're up against, that's what matters. And the ability to do that, this doesn't exist for me. You go to your manager, what do they tell you? Close it. Oh, thank you. That's the type of insight I was looking for. I couldn't have thought of that on my own. How about somebody who can really dig into it, whose only interest is making you rich, helping you go to the next level in your sales career? That's the only incentive I have. And people go, well, what's your incentive? I want to make the course have a network effect. That means that each new student that joins the course adds a little bit of value to it. So the next time someone joins it, a little bit more value. And over the now year and a half I've had them out there online with this approach, I've been teaching probably 5 years on site pretty actively. And I got to tell you, I love doing this because the people who come to the course are the people who really want to become great at sales. It's most time their money, their time, and their career. And they want to see how other people are doing it. They want to share what they're doing. They want to see how companies buy and how to do it better and how to make more money. So now's the perfect time to do it. It's kind of a slowdown if you haven't noticed, unless you're in the vacation booking business. So it's a good time to kind of sharpen the saw before you hit the ground again in the next couple of weeks. That's it. Appreciate you listening. Make sure you're checking out Co-Video. They're crushing it. Video is really crushing it. I got to tell you, I've been doing video on LinkedIn and now on YouTube. So Brian Burns Sales on YouTube or Maverick Method. Either one will get you there. Check out my videos either there or on LinkedIn. And follow the company page, the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast company page. Do you have sales questions? Well, I give you brutally honest answers. I do. I 7 days a week, I'm putting out some gold, some answers there. But they are brutally honest. So if you can handle it, If you want the truth, not the polished crap by some author who's never sold, or some grandpa who hasn't sold in 15 or 20 years, or some bonehead who's only had one sales job and now trains people. How about somebody who's had like 12 sales jobs? And I love selling, and I have a perspective. You may not agree with it, and I don't ask you to agree with it. I just ask you to check it out, see if it will help you. I'm not asking you to do anything. Check that out, Brutally Honest Answers for the Sales Questions podcast. If you want to hear about leadership issues, the B2B Revenue Leadership podcast is also out there. I'm telling you, I'm addicted to podcasting. I love it. Talking into the mic, talking to salespeople, sales leaders, making money. Let's go. We'll see you next time.